Welcome back. I'm Mary Halter, and I'm here today with Pam Halter. Pam Halter is a published writer and is here to talk to us about writing. Pam, welcome to the show. When did you start writing, and when did you discover this was something that you loved?
Usually when people ask me that, I tell them I've been writing ever since I can talk. Because I used to make up stories and skits and things for the neighborhood kids and Girl Scouts and my little sister before we would go to, we were supposed to be sleeping, and I would make up stories and things. So I guess I've always been writing that way, but I actually didn't really begin to seriously write till about 1994, after I lost a baby. And it was suggested to me to write as a way of dealing with grief. And I wrote poems and things, and then I wrote a children's story, and I really had a great time writing it. That's basically where I started.
When did you decide to make this a career?
After I attended my first writers' conference in 1997, I found out how much I didn't know about writing, but I found it really interesting that there was so much more to it than just writing down a good story. And I got a book contract because of that writers' conference. I have 2 picture books published, and it was very exciting, to actually be a real writer with a real published book. And I knew after that that's what I wanted to do.
Have you published anything else besides those 2 books?
The 2 books I published were children's picture books. And I have done a couple of articles for children for an online magazine. And mostly what I've done is what we call daily devotions. They're for Christians to read something from the Bible and a thought about that Bible passage every day. I've also contributed to some compilation books with the same type of thing, devotional reading, like that.
What are you working on now?
Well, I haven't given up writing children's books. Right now the market for children's writers is pretty tight. But I have started some fantasy novels. I'm very interested in that. I enjoy reading fantasy, and I've decided to try and write it. And the first novel that I'm working on for teens is called Fairy Eater.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Fairy Eater?
The basic premise of the book is I'm using 4 types of fairies in this book. They're the fairies of the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. And what's happening is the earth fairies are disappearing and no one knows why. And the earth fairies' power has been keeping the Dark Lord Rissard's ashes buried in the ground, because if he was to ever regenerate, of course he would, as most evil villains do, destroy everything that's good. And the fairies are strengthened by a fairy guardian. So he chooses a 15-year-old girl and sets her out on this quest to find the fairy stone. In the meantime, the Dark Lord's daughter, the witch Tismet, is capturing the fairies, and because she's evil and vicious, she eats them. And this diminishes their power. And so what happens is the fairy guardian dies before the heroine, her name's Aquila, I forgot to mention that, before she can actually find the fairy stone and become the guardian herself. Rissard raises up from the ground and starts wreaking havoc in the land. And Aquila still has to finish her quest to find the fairy stone.
That sounds really interesting. Have you finished it yet?
No, I have not. Almost. I'm pretty close to getting done.
When you're finished writing, what happens to the novel?
Well, the first thing a writer typically does when they finish is to go through and read the whole thing again and do what we call tighten up. Look for mistakes, anything that we want to change, anything like that. After that, I have to decide if I want to query an agent or a publishing house, editor or publishing house. Some people will do both. It's better not to.
Do you have any advice for anyone who is aspiring to be a novelist or writer?
I think it's been said that good writers are good readers. If you love to read and you're well read, that's going to help you right there in the beginning. The other thing is for people to need to understand that there's a craft to writing. It's more than just having a good idea and putting it down. So that would be, and to not give up. Writing takes a long time. The whole process is a long time. So I would say have patience, read, write, and write, and write. If you got a story in you, write it.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Pam, thank you for being with us.
Thanks.
When we come back, a boy who lost his shoe and the dog who found it. Details coming up. Stay tuned.